New Garnier Men Acno Fight Gentle Cleanser. ये है gentle on skin, tough on pimples.
That's more of the Afghanistan we know so well about. They might be leaving this World Cup early, but they give an apt parting gift to their departing coach Jonathan Trott, an 82-run win over Canada at Chepauk to close out their campaign for Afghanistan. Welcome to ESPN Cricket Info Timeout, powered by Garnier Men. Over the course of the show, we will unpack Afghanistan's campaign and also look at some trends from the associates at this World Cup. One final time this evening, we have the company of Saba Karim, Monty Desai in our studios, and Farveez Maharoof joining us. Farveez, that was quite commanding, clinical, comprehensive, the kind we come to expect from Afghanistan.
Yeah, as expected. Last game of the campaign, they've a lot to leave behind the World Cup with the disappointment in the first couple of games, and from the outset, once they scored double under 200 on the board, with the quality bowling lineup of Afghanistan, it's just a matter of time. As soon as Yuvraj got out, I thought that was the end of the game. And the way Mujibur Rahman bowled with the new ball and the whole force, Mohammad Nabi, you just can't keep him from the game. 4 for 7 in 4 overs shows that he's just getting better and better at this age. So overall, good way to finish for Afghanistan.
Yeah, I was almost tempted to think whether this was Nabi also giving a parting shot, but I was reminded that Rashid Khan made it clear at the press conferences that Mohammad Nabi is going nowhere. It is his career best figures in what 150 plus T20 as that he's played. Yeah. Saba, this was the kind of spin performance that we usually attribute to Afghanistan.
Yes, and I think they did that quite well and with ease against Canada. I think this is what was expected for them against tough opponents. That, unfortunately for Afghanistan, it did not happen. Because the kind of confidence they had shown before this tournament began, or in the edition before this, one expected them to go a step further. I think the right progress for them would have been to qualify in the Super 8. So I think at this stage, although they won this game, Afghanistan on the whole would be quite disappointed with their performance in this edition of the World Cup.
Yeah. This has come up against a Canadian side who, in their other games against the full members, and they had a fair few to meet in this group, they did score 150 plus against South Africa. They put on 170 against New Zealand. What do you make of the Canadian batting effort?
I guess same thing. It comes down to, are they well conditioned? Are they well-oiled machine to come down here and compete in back-to-back those number of T20 games? Probably just ran out of gas when it mattered the most for them to at least leave a impression.
That's actually a very good point Monty makes here, Yash, and I'm sure Farveez also would agree to this. I think the biggest challenge for an associate nation is to how to sustain good form, because you end up playing against test-playing nation, against higher-ranked teams, against associate nations. So to sustain a similar kind of form as a team and as individual, I think that has been the biggest challenge, and some teams have not been able to overcome that. A classic case in point is the way Italy played in this tournament. They did well against Nepal, 10-wicket win. They came close to creating that upset against England, but somehow in the other two games that they played, one was today against West Indies, they came a cropper. And also the one against Scotland, where everybody expected them to win. So I think in a tournament like this, when you're up against very tough opponents, I think the biggest challenge for them is to have that kind of form and to sustain it. I think that's what big nations or top quality teams are able to do.
Yeah, it's such an interesting point, because even within the group you allude to with Italy, if you look at Nepal, they pushed England to the brink in game one, but then suffered that blowout against Italy in the next game. Farveez, consistency of performances, it's something that comes up quite often with associates. Is the only real way of that happening by virtue of them getting more games between World Cups, which doesn't really happen?
Yeah, certainly that can help for sure. More games they play against top quality sides, they will certainly improve. And also as individuals, not only Canada, the other countries also need to sustain, maintaining their fitness, maintaining their form. Sometimes when you don't get too many matches as a country, individuals could go to other countries and play in the leagues, play in a domestic structure. But when you all come together at least a month or 6 weeks prior, this is where the conditioning should be up top. like if you're physically fit, your technical ability will take care of you in the T20 setup, and when you're physically fit, you can concentrate for a longer period. And back-to-back games in Asian subcontinent, Yash, is not easy in this seat to come back and perform over again. So these are the challenges, and maybe some of the players are not 100% professional. They will not be having contracts, train themselves right throughout the year. So that's another big challenge that the associate countries will be facing. So this is just not one problem that I see. It's a circle of many, and it's about ICC making sure there are enough funds being given to these associate countries so that the boards and the association can fund these players and nutrition them, make them be feel professional, like make them feel special by giving a contract. So if there is contract, at least it can be contracts a little bit substantial amount where they can have a better living. So these are the issues I'm sure, and Monty will second this. These are the issues I'm sure the players must be facing.
Monty.
Yeah, you made a point. When you have security, actually, you can push yourself a lot more. Nepal is a classic example of that. Though the contracts are not huge amounts, but when it comes to living in that country and the kind of finances that you want as part of security, for last couple of years, they get an amount which is substantial in comparison to the jobs that normal people will do in Nepal. That helps because then you are fully invested in developing your skills a lot more, and you focus on not just couple of months, that couple of years you have that security, so you really go all out, and you try to work better at your skills. That exposure thing is a very, very important part. Yes, they associate players against each other, and they also have their great rivalry, like Nepal or UAE, they really go in skill wise, they compete well. But when it comes to games like this, how many more times they can actually get? Do they have to wait for another World Cup to get one game against a full member nation? That's the question that we have to ask.
I think there are two components to it. One is Yash is exposure, as Monty is alluding to, and the second is funding. I think both these two facets need to come together, and I think that is why all the associate nations, they rely so heavily on ICC, the percentage of the revenue that they receive. That's the biggest reason why ICC was so gung-ho about getting cricket into Olympic. So once you become an Olympic sport, then there is far more chances of the central establishment providing them with some extra funds. Hopefully, I think things should become better even for the associate nations, since we will see Olympics, cricket in Olympics in LA Olympics.
Yeah. Question is, do you thrive because or do you thrive despite? But you know what, if you look at this World Cup, the one thing it has revealed is that the gap is closing, despite all the hardships that our panel brings up. And we've dug up the numbers. When you look at incremental gains for associate nations, and Monty, I'll come to you first with this. We've tried to break down scoring rates for associate teams against at men's T20 World Cups, and that is a drastic increase. To go up by 1 run per over, it's not just the overall scoring rate, even against full members. While in the past there might have been an argument that, a full member against an associate, will they get to 120? This tournament we've seen several scores of 150 plus by associates against full members.
Yeah, and a couple of factors to it. Of course, the individual drive and hunger is the most important one because they want that visibility. But some of those players are now featuring in smaller leagues as well. That makes a huge difference. Great example is UAE. The players are exposed in ILT20. Nepal now has their own Nepal Premier League for last 2 years. That has helped because you rub shoulders with some of the known names who come as professionals overseas in different franchises. Same goes for Major League, for that matter, Global T20. So in many ways, these smaller leagues around the world has played their role as well, to build the batter's confidence. But the striking abilities as well. I think the overall importance of T20, where it comes down to get strike at a higher rate, you also want your power hitting in place. So not necessarily each of the associates have got those facilities in place, but individually some of those players have made an effort to get better at it.
I think by featuring in so many different franchisee leagues all over the world, there's been huge learning for such players or such nations. And I think the biggest learning for them is how to be in sync with the rapidly evolving T20 format. By spending time in the dressing room, by watching their own colleagues perform, it inspires you. the kind of chatter that goes on inside the dressing room. You learn so much from the foreign coaches, from your teammates. I think all that helps such players who come from the associate nations to grow, and I think that's a healthy rise that we have seen there in these past two editions. That one run that in excess that the associate nations have managed to score even against top playing nations. It just goes to show that there is so much of self-belief now when they go out to play against big teams also.
Yeah, and it is the surest indicator which lies in consistency, because in the past we have celebrated, you can think of John Davison's 100 against West Indies in 2003, or
Yes.
Kevin O'Brien doing what he did against England in 2011. But while you may have thought that they came as one-offs in past World Cups, this World Cup you've seen consistency of a different level, because associate nations have managed to rake up 150 plus totals more than half the times they've batted at this men's T20 World Cup, and that too is a significant gain. You look at the last few editions: 18% in 21, 24% in 22, 33 in 2024, which was a low-scoring World Cup on the whole. But Farveez, you look at this number and feels like the surest indicator that the power-hitting revolution has also landed at the doorstep of the associates.
Yeah, I can say so, and also it shows how true the pitches have been right throughout the World Cup. That got to be applauded. I thought, most of the pitches in all the 8 venues have been superb for stroke making, and that also helped the associate countries. And I keep on saying it. It's a short of the game that associate countries are in the game, because they can really hurt a big side, and we've seen many sides coming closer, but just not had the experience to finish off in crunch moments. So these are the things that the associate countries got to make sure that when they go out of this World Cup, these are the things that they need to put in practice when the next big tournament or next bilateral series comes to them. And it's all about being consistent now, and they have raised the bar now to a certain level. It's not keeping the bar at that same position. It's about lifting the bar whenever they come up to the next level and keep on reminding the world what they can offer to world cricket.
What are the next steps for you to ensure that this uptick continues?
I feel we need to add more associate nations in World Cup editions. I feel 20 is not enough, because more numbers need to come into the picture. I think the growth will be far more rapid, and I feel that associate nations who get an opportunity to play in these tournaments, they work harder to improve the infrastructure so that there is a much better promotion of sport. This is number one. Number two, I would love to see more homegrown talent coming through from these associate nations. I can understand, for instance, in this Italian side, they had, I think, 4 or 5 players who come from Australia. All that is perfectly fine, but in addition, you also want some homegrown talent. And we have seen the growth. In any case, football happens to be a global sport, but we see so much of homegrown talent coming through. And the reason why cricket has flourished in the Asian subcontinent is that the locals embraced this sport, and we started to excel in it. And I think that's the kind of story that needs to be played out even from these associate nations.
That part of locals embracing the sport, we've seen that happen in Nepal. You've seen it closely.
Yeah, I mean,
you would hope that win Italy had against Nepal would spur a few more younger Italians to take up the sport.
I'm hoping so, but obviously Nepal is pretty much, you define it as cricketing nation, because that's an example of Afghanistan or Nepal where cricket is there. It's in the districts and provinces, but I have not really got an insight of how the cricket is, the leagues or the clubs in Italy, and the number of people who are participating locally there. US is a good example. US obviously have been represented by players who got a lifeline and they're representing there. But the next group of players who are coming up, the under-19s of USA, are all most of them have born there.
Second generation.
Second generation. So they are inspired from whatever they have seen now, and obviously cricket is in their home, so that has helped them. And those are the kind of examples we can look into, like you said, for homegrown.
Yeah.
Before closing out this conversation, I know it's a question I think I've asked you every day you've appeared here, but as much as we celebrate the associates at the World Cups, it still remains that the period between the World Cups is where a lot more needs to happen by them and for them.
Absolutely. See, they are on the edge in terms of when the qualifiers come. They have pretty much on pressure cooker situation where you lose one game and then you miss out on the next World Cup. which has been the case. In fact, Zimbabwe is an example as well. Last
Yes.
time around, unfortunately, they lost against Uganda and missed out. But you want more games. You want more bilaterals, or not bilateral, at least a triangular series where some of the teams who are touring on this side can probably catch to his associate teams on the way.
Yeah, all right. So that is the associate story. Of course, there is still one more game that is left. Oman will hope to bow out on a high. They take on Australia and what will conclude the group stage. But it is a group stage where the associates more than played the part, more than made up the numbers. Go back to day one of this World Cup. A couple of catches taken. Max O'Dowd of Fahim Ashraf, Shubham Ranjane of Suryakumar Yadav, and we could have been looking at a very different story for this World Cup. But let's get our attention back onto Afghanistan, who bow out of this. And since we were talking about lack of game time, Saba, it's not like Afghanistan have been blessed with a lot of game time. Between these two World Cups, they played less than 15 games. And I think the vast majority of those came in a 2-month cycle just before and during the Asia Cup.
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right, Yash. I mean, that's not very conducive for the growth of a cricketing nation. And Afghanistan, in any case, has been an outstanding story. So I think the need of the hour is for, even in the case of Afghanistan, for them to be pitched against some top quality teams. And they have done that, especially in white ball cricket. In one day cricket, we have seen the progress they have made, even in T20Is for that matter. So why is it that that many more bilateral engagements have not been organized by the top nations against Afghanistan? So that's the question to be asked. And I feel the 4 or 5 of these top playing nations, they need to be more selfless. BCCI, for that matter, India has done that. We have travelled to Ireland, we travelled regularly to Zimbabwe, we have played matches against Afghanistan. If I remember correctly, I think last season Afghanistan was here to play a bilateral engagement. Last year or year before last. I mean, don't give me that look. I'm just trying to remember also. I mean, that look is like, oh, what are you saying?
Not at all. I think I was looking at some other number there.
So I mean that's what Australia, England, New Zealand, the other top nations team should do that, because T20 is a format where there will be a lot of competition even if you play against Afghanistan. So hopefully, I think in this next cycle one can see some kind of improvement in that regard also.
Farveez, when we review this tournament for Afghanistan, what is the yardstick that we now use for Afghanistan? Because they lost 2 games to New Zealand and South Africa, one of them by the barest of margins, both higher ranked teams, but yet the feeling, the overriding emotion is of disappointment because they made the semi-finals the last time. So which way would you deconstruct the Afghanistan story?
I thought, as I said before, I mean, scheduling of the matches, if Afghan had played one of the top sides, South Africa or New Zealand, the last game, had played the associate before, would have been a different story, because they could have easily gone for some form and then ran into one of the top sides at the latter part. But just being said that, but overall, looking at the picture, they'll be disappointed because Afghans emotionally they love cricket, they breathe cricket, and they live cricket. So they will be devastated with the early exit of the World Cup, especially being the semi-finals in the last one. And also Jonathan Trott's last commitment, they just couldn't give him a perfect going away gift, because he's been respected and loved by the entire side that I know, and that's one thing. But looking at the bigger picture, I think they are blessed with good players. They are blessed with good young players who are in the side, who has been in the side for the last probably 4 or 5 years, gaining experience. And there are so many young players coming through. They are emerging, and the under-19 setup. So, I mean, it's just a matter of they are playing much more bilateral series and making sure that the exposure has been given to the youngsters coming through, so that by the World Cup time comes in, at least the 2027 50 World Cup comes in, there'll be much more oil machine.
Yeah, when it came to self-assessment of this campaign, Captain Rashid Khan had pointed to a lack of smart decisions. He said, I think in the presser ahead of their last game, that when put under pressure, we lose our way. And I think he was referring more to the games they play against the bigger nations. Perhaps the super over might have been on his mind, and the decisions they took then. Also admitted to facing those 2 teams within 4 days as a big challenge. So mental evolution, part of the next steps of the Afghan story?
To a large extent, and it was not the first time. We saw what happened to them in that one-day World Cup against Australia. So these tough moments, or those critical moments, they should be able to seize it, and they have enough experience, although they don't They don't play with that kind of regularity as a nation, but there are so many of them who play in different franchisee leagues all across the globe. So I was seriously expecting a lot from Afghanistan this time around.
Yeah.
I wanted a better growth in their match temperament, in their ability to finish games. And because I did not see that happen, I was quite disappointed because expecting so much from Afghanistan. They had a pretty solid side.
Yeah. I think 2018-19 is the period when you were with the Afghanistan team.
Yeah.
I think 6-7 years ago, if anyone told them that you've reached a point in 2026 where if you lose out in a group stage, which includes New Zealand and South Africa, it would be considered a disappointment, they'd have probably taken it then. But where do they stand now?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take. I'm hearing out both the experts, but such a cutthroat fixture, the way it's kept, and margins were so less. I mean, you look at that super over, and if they had crossed the line, they are on 3 wins, and you would be here talking about probably they're in Super 8.
Yes.
So, but the way I reflect from 2018 to now is that they have made some solid, consistent progress. Yes, they have not featured in Super 8 this time around, or could have reached semi-final, things like that. But they have made some solid progress. Probably the point which you touched earlier, if they went all out with some of those experienced players for this tournament, was it the right way to go forward? That's the thing they can question. Now probably rethink and eye on one of those formats properly, where they are invested early enough so that those players, the core group, can come together. They do have a good cricketing team culture. I can see that. There are leaders who are well respected, and it seems that they are always willing to do a bit of, go all out to do something for the country.
This is also, in a way, the end of a phase, if not an era, for Afghanistan cricket, because there were emotional scenes out there with Rashid Khan embracing Jonathan Trott in the warmest of hugs. Trott, who became coach of this side in July 2022, he is now going to leave the job. And Farveez, if you consider this time period, an Afghanistan side who before that in their entire ICC tournament history had won 2 games against full members, have now consistently punched above the weight. Semi-finalists at the last T20 World Cup, almost semi-finalists if not for Maxwell's miracle in Mumbai at the ODI World Cup. It's been quite the ride these last 2 years for Afghanistan.
Indeed, it has been. And I like to go 20 years back. 2006, when I first experienced Afghan side, when they came to Sri Lanka A team, the Afghan national side, and the Ireland A team, we played a Tri-Nation series. That's where Mohammad Nabi, the Hamid Hassans, and even the president now, Mirwais Ashraf, was part of the side. And looking back from 2006 up to now, they've certainly produced some fantastic players, certainly produced some solid teams where, some of the countries, even I remember 2019 50 World Cup, they gave some scary moment for Sri Lankan side in the World Cup in England. So they have been having this knack of giving a bit of a scary moment for big teams until about the 2018-19, and then they became consistent, and now they have a very good structure going forward with producing so many players, and first class cricket has been taken really seriously, and the pitches are quite green, and the technique of the batsmen are tested most often. So I think they are in the right track, but just such as filtering the right players, getting into the system and giving them that exposure at this level, that is where it's going to be very, very crucial. Now new coaching structure is going to be in place come the next tour. Plus they have advertised for a director of cricket. So many changes are happening behind the scenes for Afghan cricket. So these are, I think, this next couple of weeks, probably 3 weeks, everything will fall in place, and they have to regather their thoughts, regather their strategies, and plan out for the 2027 50 World Cup now.
Yeah, in fact, Rashid had also paid an emotional tribute to Trott in the pre-match presser. He'd said he's been someone who's taken Afghanistan cricket to where it is now. He worked so hard with every single one. Definitely everyone around us will miss him so much. He played a main role in taking this team on the right path.
Yes, absolutely correct. I'm looking at 2 markers to judge Jonathan Trott's journey with the Afghanistan side. One is as a team, and second is individual growth of players. And I think on both these accounts, Jonathan Trott has had tremendous inputs. As a team, Afghanistan has grown in confidence. White ball cricket, they have definitely improved. There is a cohesiveness in the way they play even against top quality teams. And second is I look at some of these youngsters whose batting has gone up to a different level. Someone like Ibrahim Zadran, Siddiqullah Atal. I see Darvish Rasool now, and I'm sure there are so many others with whom he has worked. Maybe they're not part of the side, but they are at least in that frame. Similarly, I look at also some of the young spinners who are coming through. There are so many, left arm leg spin bowlers who have come through the system. There is no dearth of mystery spinners in Afghanistan side. So I think more than the performances, this a coach's role is also to instill that self-belief and that you can go out and compete and also beat top quality nations. I think that's the kind of value with which Jonathan Trott has brought on the table for Afghanistan.
What's the Trott legacy at Afghanistan for you?
It's defined the standard of performance, both on and off the field. Just the way he has conducted himself as a coach. I'm sure many of them who are aspiring to become coach in that country will also look up to him the way he has, managed his whole team. And a lot must be defined, and I'm sure that those templates can be now taken forward, so that that structure, like Maharoof mentioned earlier, that can be, grown into a lot more players to be produced, and probably a solid unit to get to that semi-final that we are looking for.
Yeah, so that is time on Jonathan Trott's stint at Afghanistan. What a glorious story it's been the last few years, and that'll also be time on the show tonight. Saba, Monty, thank you so much for your time. Farveez, pleasure as always having your company. We're going to see a lot more of you. Sri Lanka in the business end, and you've predicted that they will go much further than the Super 8. So look forward to your company next time out. Farveez, thank you so much. Monty, been a pleasure having you, covering the stories of all these teams, all the associates who make this World Cup. I hope you've had a good time.
Well, I was very lucky to meet all the stalwarts that I was looking forward to. So this has been more than an exciting journey for me.
Saba, we'll meet
Thanks.
soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
catch up
Look
soon.
forward to your company the next time. Right, that is triple headers done for this World Cup. 13 of them since it began on the 7th of February. One group stage game still to go. Australia versus Oman. We will be live with our build-up just around toss time. So join us then on ESPN Cricinfo Timeout, powered by Ghania Men. Good night. Thank you for watching.
New Ghania Men Acno Fight Gentle Cleanser. ये है gentle on skin, tough on pimple.